women making moves, we celebrate the moves that women are making. My name is Amy Pons, founder of Unlock the Magic, Coaching, Marketing, and Healing. I'm joined today with Jen Vertanen. Jen is your strategic ass-kicking best damn life coach and consultant. She brainwashes brilliant humans into deeply loving and believing in themselves and their ability to do anything they set their minds to, so much so that taking bold and courageous action almost takes itself. With her guidance and over 30 years experience helping others make epic shit happen, you can't help but do the same. Jen, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm kind of sweary, aren't I? I'm like, I wrote those words and no, I'm very unapologetically sweary, but I don't have to swear.
Yeah, I hear you on that. When I first launched Unlock the Magic is such a beautifully divine feminine, like you feel it. And then I would follow it up with remember who the fuck you are. And I was like, it was a little bit jarring. And I was like, well, it's kind of amazing because it's like divine masculine, divine feminine together, but also it just something didn't land. So I still have one of my coaching packages is remember who the fuck you are. But I lead with Unlock the Magic, Ignite Your Flame. And some days I do get sweary. So this is a perfect segue into how I wanted to start this conversation, which we talked about before we hit record, professionalism.
Yes.
What the actual fuck does that mean? Because here's my stickiness with it right away, is that professionalism was created by a group of mid-aged white men sitting around a boardroom. So
as with most everything else.
Right. So like I largely unsubscribe with professional, but I do kind of still get it. Like how would you...
Yeah. I love that you asked me this question because I know folks aren't seeing me right now, but I have a septum piercing, a nose ring on my side. I have pink hair. I'm tattooed. Oh, yeah, you're showing me yours. I love it. I'm tattooed. I am an unapologetic 54-year-old woman who shows up as my neurodiverse self, my neurodiverse sweary self in most situations. And I just so happen to come from a corporate background and have a day job I absolutely love. When I think professionalism, I think of I am going to show up to do my best work with you. It doesn't matter how I look, but I have the integrity, I have the wherewithal to make sure I'm able to show up as my best self to help. And if I'm not in that headspace, I'm going to let you know and we're going to reschedule.
I love
That's what I mean.
Yes. Yes. There you go. There you go.
I don't think I've worn a suit in my life other than my first interviews out of college. That to me is like, that like literally I got goosebumps. That creeps me out for me.
And for those, right. And for those who love suits, awesome for you.
Absolutely.
The reason I have such stickiness around it, and I love that you just reclaimed it. Yes. As no matter where I am these days, I'm going to do my best. Like my professionalism is taking care of myself so that I can hold space for you.
Absolutely.
Whether it be through my coaching or marketing, well, especially healing. I don't know how I would be in that space if I weren't like in a, but you and you did this like reclaiming and reframing what professionalism is, because did this come up on our conversation or somewhere else? Executive presence?
I don't think we talked about that. Maybe we talked about a lot of stuff.
I know. That's the other term that I get queasy at. What it is for me is like, as long as I'm showing up, I'm respecting the space and grace that you're bringing forth. That's a professionalism standpoint in my business. And what it looked like for me in corporate for 20 years was to mask up, to be able to get into survival suit and go into the trenches. You know, it was just earth shattering every single time I had a performance review. It was like, you're crushing it, but
yeah.
And it would always be something around the fact that I'm too intense. You're too much. Go find less.
Go find less. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I've been in corporate now for 30 years because I am older than you. Not to point that out. It doesn't matter. Age is irrelevant to me.
Is that true?
I'm 54.
Oh, I'm 42. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I've been in corporate 30 years, and about 12 years ago, some fairly significant things happened to me where I took a 15-month mental health break from corporate. And when I went back into it, it was the best thing for me ever because I went back in saying, I am no longer masking. I will set boundaries. I have expectations on the company. And I have left companies within 3 months if what they presented themselves as from a values, integrity, way of working, way of being, if that does not hold true. And I say this, I recognize the privilege in being able to do this, but I have left, right? I'm in a career where there's lots of opportunities. And actually right now there aren't so many in IT, but at the time there were, right? But it is that important to me because I've chosen to stay in corporate because I do love the work I do. I love the people I do it with, the mission of the company I'm at, like all of that. I so want to have a hand in the success of the company because it impacts the members that use our product, right?
Mm.
Yeah. But I opted out of that. I am not for everyone. A bank probably would not hire me, but I don't want to work at a bank.
So divinely, of course, you said bank. That's where I came from. I was head of product management for our global digital payment wallet. That
Mm-hmm.
seems so wild for me to even say out loud. Because a lot of people in my new world would be like, you did that? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm really good at it, actually. But to your point, and my nose ring is really itchy right now
Oh
because
no.
I'm about to talk about her.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
getting a nose ring was something that I have just wanted my entire life. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. I know it has to do with my spiritual journey now, but in corporate, I was with a leader kind of midway through that I did trust, and I was like, hey, I really want to get my nose pierced. Like, it's just something I've always wanted to do. I don't know, early 30s or mid 30s. And they were like, absolutely not. That is you.
CLM, career limiting move.
Oh, we call it CLD, career limiting decision.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
and they weren't trying to
Mm,
be an asshole. They were like, that's literally what's going to happen because no
yeah.
one above me would ever vibe with that. And I'm like,
Hmm.
ew. And why? Like, yes, I was part of a bank with Fortune 200, but I was never customer facing, not one day of my life,
Yeah.
like in
Yeah.
corporate, because it was all with peers. So it's like, okay, so peers, they don't feel that's professional. So that's where
Hmm.
I have a rub around.
Yeah, I have a similar story with mine too. I got mine when I was 40. I was currently, at that time, I was working for a beloved retailer at Fortune 50 company. I was not customer facing whatsoever. And I get wild hairs up my butt, even though I'd wanted the nose ring forever. This day, I was like, I'm going to go do it. So I did. And I loved it, right? But when you get your nose pierced, you start with like a bigger hoop. So it was prominent. At least I did back then. And I remember going into work the next day, I got a couple of what the fucks and interesting. But no one ever said to me what they said to you. And I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's not the way it should be whatsoever. But again,
Well,
if you don't like my nose ring, that's okay. I probably don't like you either. Like, or we just don't jive personally.
I was specifically at that time on a regular basis every few days, not that you weren't, but like every other day. The reason this boss was saying this to me was because the most conservative
Hmm.
men and women, I was constantly in front of the C-suite like every single day or every,
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
and they were like, you would no longer be able to represent the department. I was like,
Oh
wow,
my gosh.
this is getting deep. Okay. So,
Yeah, this
like
is
again,
serious.
the executive presence, the
Absolutely.
professionalism, that kind of stuff, it still rubs me the wrong way.
Absolutely. And the company I'm with now, and I've been there 3 years, I followed an old boss there who's my best boss ever. Like I interface with the C-suite all the time, and they love me for my neurodiverse brain, my somewhat sweary ways, my pink hair, and that goes back to what I was saying is like, yes, there is privilege in being able to say, this is what I need from the company I'm at, but I do get to have that privilege, right? And what I love about it is it helps give others permission to
Mhm.
do whatever they want to do. Maybe they want red hair or blue hair, or maybe, I don't know. So many times I've had people come up to me through the years and of me just being me and being like, oh, you gave me permission to do this. I'm like, I can't give you permission. That's a you thing. But I'm glad that, you're taking inspiration from me.
There was no space for that. And so
Yeah.
I didn't get a nose ring. What I did do though, interesting what you just said. I dyed my hair bright fire engine red.
Ooh.
And so I did something.
Before I did the nose ring, I started buying red shoes because that was my act of rebellion. I probably had 30. My very first photo shoot for my business, my coaching business, it featured all my red shoes, boots, I mean, everything. But that was my
So
act of rebellion.
amazing you said that because same. Before my
Hmm.
red hair, I always wore red shoes. And everyone's like, wow, you and your red shoes.
I know, you're so bold.
So bold. Oh my God.
I
So,
know.
and I love what you said up. You interface with your C-suite now, and it doesn't make a damn difference because
Yeah.
unique brilliance is always inside. And
Hmm.
listen, if you come to work looking like a ragamuffin, but you're clean, like I don't know, like is it hygiene? Is it whatever it is? It's like, I led a team over a pandemic, and we were so, we as an organization were like, come as you are, do the best you can. We've got you. It
Mm.
doesn't matter. And then the moment we got back, it was like, just kidding about all that.
Oh.
I was on because of my role, but also
Hmm.
the leader of the women's ERG, I was on the committee, the reentry committee with all the executives to say, how do
Hmm.
we do this? And I was like, hey, you might want to revisit your expectation on how you want people to show up. They're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm like,
What do you?
well, you're all assuming, and they were all again of a certain demographic and such.
Hmm.
They were like, well, it's in our dress code, so everyone's just going to get back to it. I was like, y'all, you hired a lot of new people over a pandemic as well, right? So
Yeah.
they've not been here before. And so, okay, you can do that, assume all you want, but okay.
Hmm. Yep.
And there was a lot of hard conversations when people came back. They were like, what's happening? I'm like, what did I say?
Yeah. This
So,
was going to happen. Yep.
so one of the first things I did a few months later after I left is I got my nose ring and
Love that.
I love it. It's just, it's part of me now. It's like it's always been there.
Yeah. Well, going back to permission, I model what it looks like to give yourself permission. I
Hmm.
had wanted a septum for about as long as I wanted a nose ring, but I was not ready to give myself permission yet until earlier this year.
Mm.
And 54-year-old women don't get septums. I'm like, why not? Again, age to me is very irrelevant. But I'm like, I love this freaking thing. I feel like I was born with it.
Mm.
I hear from people, oh, I don't like that. I'm like, that's okay.
Right.
That's the value of doing that deep inner work
Yeah.
is saying that is okay. I don't need you to like that on me. I don't need you to like that about me. I
I
love
think
it.
the hard part is assessing, part of that inner work is assessing
Hmm.
the people, places, and things around you that don't
Absolutely.
allow that
Hmm.
that inner.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, oh, that's where the pinch starts to happen. And that's where you might need to reach out to Jen and I and be like, okay, how do
Hmm.
I do this?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes you are in those places where they're saying, oh, you can do that. And you
Yeah.
will not get advanced in your
Absolutely.
career. It's like permission
Hmm.
for yourself first, and then also assessing outward who's going to stunt that in any way.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you do this too in the work that you do with people. It's so much of it is looking at what are your circumstances that you have, whether it's chronic illness or a workplace that you can't leave that is doing that. Like that to me is more important than I really want to do this, therefore I should. It's like, well, yes, let's dream, but then let's also get a little realistic, but with room for possibility, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to poke holes at your
No.
assumptions, but your circumstances best, right? And we're going to keep those in mind because that's what it means to be a whole ass human being.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And
Mm-hmm.
you create your reality. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, what is realistic for you right now?
Mm-hmm.
That's true right now, but also what you're capable of and your fullest potential has
Yeah.
no limit. That's
Yeah.
real too. So it's like
Absolutely.
once you allow permission for that in, you can actually change what's even realistic for you in that moment. I
Absolutely. All the toxic positivity and all of that of like, it's just your mindset. It's like, no, your mindset is very important, but it is an ingredient into the overall recipe, right? And I love that you spoke on possibility. I'm building out my thought leadership, taking the 30 years of secret sauce and intuition and making it a more tangible thing. And oh my gosh, that is quite the journey in and of itself, but it's time. But I was talking with a trusted mentor of mine today about possibility, right?
Mm.
I see as part of my job when you hire me is to help you build that capacity for possibility. Because I got to tell you, on the other side of doing my own personal transformation work, I feel like my possibilities are endless. And
Oh,
this is coming from someone who would stay up at night worrying that I would reach 80, be a resentful, bitter old woman, and no one would come to my funeral. Like that was literally in my head over and over and over. And now I have this world of possibility and opportunity in front of me, and it is magical. Talk about unlock the magic.
that's what we do.
That's what we
That's,
do.
and I say we, like not every professional coach
Yep.
is
Yep.
going to vibe the same. Some are strictly in the more of like create a plan, do it, execute, move
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
on. I'm gonna have you feel into stuff. So,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
your possibilities are endless. And so many people, probably the bulk majority of the planet right now, does not vibe with that. Like they're not
Mm-hmm.
moving at that frequency. They're moving at a frequency that there's a finite to everything that they
Mm-hmm.
do. And so when you do the inner work, like when I say the words, I can just feel the eye roll. But when I'm like, you create your reality, everyone's like, what the actual fuck does that mean? It means when you're doing the inner work and you align toward anything in the world you want to create or be or move in, when you trust that that's already in motion and that
Mm-hmm.
you're aligning toward that and it's coming from your higher self and you trust in the divine guidance or protection, and that does not have to be religion. That's just, it's a whole
Mm-hmm.
process. That's how you're creating it. Imagine feeling your favorite version of yourself and then walking into a room
Mm-hmm.
feeling like the air has been let out of your balloons. That's what I'm talking about. If you keep going into spaces where your balloons are deflated, that's also what you're creating. So
Absolutely.
walk into a room where your balloons get bigger.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, limitless.
I love that. And because you and I both love the and, I have so many friends, and I'm sure you do too, friends and family members that have heartbreaking chronic illness that really limits their capacity, right? And in no way would I ever say, and I'm not saying you're saying this whatsoever, but in no way would I look at my husband and say, well, you created that reality for yourself. But what I am going to do is say, this is where we're at. What else is possible given that circumstance? Maybe you are limited by what your body can do sometimes. Absolutely. But what gets you the feeling that you want to
Right.
have? What are different ways you can bring more of that feeling into your life? Because there are endless possibilities and scenarios for that to happen. That's where we get creative and play with possibility.
I think that's the hardest part of doing any internal work or talking about what could be, is
Mm-hmm.
that there could be substantial space between your favorite self and
Mm-hmm.
your physical lived experience that is very real and hurts.
Yeah.
That's what's
Yeah.
hard to reconcile.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. And that's what I love playing with clients on, right? It's like, again, let's get out where you're currently at, but then let's like be creative and scrappy and come at it in different ways to expand what is possible for me or for,
Mhm.
the client. That's a favorite part of the work I do.
Yeah, I agree. Same. If I need to agree, what could you stretch? And then
Mm-hmm.
every time you stretch and expand,
Yes.
you
Something
won't,
more opens up.
yeah. Ah, of
I love this.
mm,
We're vibing.
course. Jen, what moves are you excited to be making right now?
Yes, so I talked about it a little bit, but really getting my thought leadership, my secret sauce out of my head and my gut and intuition and into something I can teach, right? I have a very different approach. Talk about a visceral reaction to a term, SMART goal. Oh my God, I can't even say the word without wanting to throw up in my mouth. It is that visceral. I have a different way of approaching goals and life and living your best damn life and what that means and your definition of success and, all of that. And I fully believe the world needs my secret sauce, much like the world needs your secret sauce. And I think the world needs everyone's secret sauce, right? Not everyone will endeavor to do this work, and that is okay. But I have something that will help so many others. And taking that thought leadership out of my head and into something teachable, that's my move I'm making. It's time.
I can't wait to experience that. And
Mm.
is it true that the secret sauce is always evolving?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's probably been a couple of years now that I've really embraced my neurodiverse brain and learned how to partner with my brain. And I'm finding different ways now to work with people. I was actually doing it with a coworker today. It's like, if you need to do a voice memo, do that. If the spreadsheet isn't working for you, great. It's like reminding people there are so many ways to get something out of your head and into the tangible. And so that's just an example, like I said, where before I might have been like, well, no, we got to use a spreadsheet. I'm never that like structured, but I'm like, no, I'm going to recognize that you may have a different way of processing. Your input is so critical to this evolution or this iteration of a process. Do it however you need to do it, right? So showing others grace for that and giving themselves permission, which in turn they'll start doing something differently in a way that works better for them, which will then give someone else permission, and the ripples are endless. I get worked up.
I'm
I'm not
glad.
apologizing for that, but
Oh no,
like,
I know you're not. I know you're not.
yeah,
I'm
I
glad
love
you
this
do.
stuff.
Part of the reason why I haven't written it down,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak, because one day it's like, wouldn't it be cool if
Mm-hmm.
there was this whole, bear with me, because I'm not saying what you're
Yeah.
doing is like wrong, of course.
Yeah.
I struggle with the potential standardization of how to do the work
Mm-hmm.
or the secret sauce. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I struggle to like write anything down or make like a course or a program.
Yeah, and I love that you touched on that because I think that's been my hesitation too, is I am not a structured person. Like, if you were to create a checklist of the qualities of a good project and program manager, I would not fit them, okay? And yet, I have delivered so many multi-million dollar projects being the project manager that people like working with, okay? So I'm not about process. I'm not about codifying. I'm not about blueprints and, any of that stuff. My brain does not grok those. But I do think getting the nuggets down, distilling it into a theory, I want people to find their unique way of working with their brain, working with their circumstances, working with their desires and motivations. And I can do that by getting some of this out of my head, kind of the high level strategic, and then individually work with clients on how does that show up for them, right? And I'm not ready to teach a course yet. It's very much in the back of my head, but I first want to get the concept drilled down just a little bit, and then the work is figuring out how to apply those for yourself.
That makes sense. It sounds similar to something I do with my new clients. We have a kickoff, and it's the
Mm-hmm.
most tactical thing we do the whole time. And it is like,
Mm-hmm.
what serves you, what doesn't serve you, what are your non-negotiables?
Exactly.
We do set like a baseline of
Yeah.
like, where are you at today?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And like you said, like I know I'm not going to be able to teach the Gen secret sauce. What I want to help others find is their secret sauce and then
Yeah.
to own it, right? To
Yeah.
like celebrate it and not be like, oh, my brain is so bad because I can't do X, Y, Z. It's like, well, no,
No.
you're not, right? Yeah. You have to allow yourself to partner with yourself. That's how we get meaningful shit done faster.
Our brains aren't meant to keep us happy. They're meant to keep us
Yeah,
safe.
safe.
So,
Yeah,
so it's like, okay, part of this, I would say step one for anyone, and tell me if you agree if this is
yeah.
a universal step one, sit still.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, yeah.
And
Listen to that
well,
internal.
and the moment your brain's like, I gotta go do something,
Hmm.
keep sitting still,
Hmm.
help your brain notice that they're attached to this body and that
Yeah,
there's a lot more happening.
yeah.
It's getting into your body too, it's like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
working together. It's never suppressing anything that wants to come in, and your brain might be screaming at you to go do something.
So someone I worked with, gosh, 10, 12 years ago, it was like circle of silence, or there was a name for it. I'll try to dig it up so that we can share it. But it boils down to like Set a timer for 10 minutes and sit in silence. Let your brain do whatever it's going to do, but you sit there, right? So I'm sitting there and it's pretty easy for me to get into my body. But after a few minutes, I'm like, this is dumb. Da, da, da. I'm like, no, I'm going to see the 10 minutes through, right? I'm a grown ass adult. I can do this. So I did. And I swear to you, at like the 9 minute, 30-second mark, all of a sudden, my head whips back, my heart goes forward, and all I hear is, right? If I had given up at the 2 minute mark, I wouldn't have had that almost out of body experience. And here's the thing, I had to hear many times over the years till it really, I felt it deep in my bones until I absorbed that. But my spirit was telling me all along, trust yourself. You actually do know.
It's so powerful. Every one of us does know. Our body already knows
Yes.
all the
Yep.
time,
Yep.
100% of the time. So once again, like in your example, if you allow brain to override and you move after 2 minutes, you're
Mhm.
actively making the choice to limit your possibilities. That's how you're creating your reality.
And you're not building that deep, deep self-trust and deep belief that, again, once you have those, your world expands exponentially.
Because everything becomes bigger, more expansive. Something isn't just something. It's like,
Right.
oh, interesting. Your world just opens up. So,
Yeah, it's a thread that you can tug, right? With, again,
yes.
endless possibilities and scenarios from that one little thread.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps.
Mhm. And there's going to be a lot of people that aren't meant to do that this lifetime.
Absolutely. And that
Great.
is okay.
Mhm.
Yep.
So one of your seemingly taglines or something that you say is like, do the damn thing. And that's something
Mm-hmm.
that I say a lot
Yeah, do the damn
throughout life.
thing.
Do the damn thing.
Yeah.
How does one start to do the damn thing? Or how do they know, Jen, when
Mm-hmm.
they're
Mm-hmm.
ready or being called to do the damn thing?
Yeah. So, ooh, readiness, that's a great thing, right? Because it's so individual and it's so subjective. If you're like, I'm not ready, okay, red flag. Your brain's keeping you safe. And is that what you want your brain to do, right? But it's that, does my body feel safe? Knowing that this thing I'm going to do is maybe uncomfortable and awkward and what have you, is it, I think you're ready, or I know you're ready when you have reached the point where you're like, fuck, I can't not do this any longer. I can't not do this any longer, right? I'm going to figure this out. That to me is you're ready. You're ready to face the uncomfortable, the awkward, the slog of it all, right? When you can no longer operate the way you have been operating. Again, that might be a nonprofit. It might be writing a book. It might be rebuilding yourself after a dumpster fire of a divorce. Like that doesn't matter. You're ready when you're like, I can't not do this anymore.
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah. And then the next step is, what we talked about, it's like that silence. We love to fool ourselves and again, this is a way our brain is keeping us safe by saying, "Well, I don't even know what I want." Bullshit. You do know. You have to listen and honor, right? Without judgment as best as possible. So if you find yourself asking or saying, I don't know what I want, call a little loving BS on yourself and say no. Going back to however your brain needs to process in the moment, maybe it's creating a mind map, maybe it's creating a spreadsheet, maybe it's notes on the back of a cocktail napkin, maybe it's a board in Miro, like whatever that is, just start giving yourself permission to play and be like, what if, right? What if? I don't know how to do it yet, but what if? And see what comes from it. What is the feeling I want from this, right? And then how can I fulfill that feeling?
When I was getting antsy, and if I look back, the amazing pattern I had built over my life
Mm-hmm.
was around you're too much.
Mm-hmm.
You're not enough because you're too much. It was like that constant, 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 constant. And it came every year at review time. It
Mm.
was such a triggering time for me. And a beautifully awakened soul said to me, so why don't you just start your own gig? And they're like, go play. And I wanted to set their words on fire. I'm like, what are you talking about? Get out of here with that nonsense. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not starting a business. I'm not going to go on my own. You're insane. stop it, play. What the fuck? I'm not five.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just had such a visceral response to it
Yeah.
because, and you know what that means now, of course,
Hmm.
like it was activating me because it was coming up to be explored.
Yep.
Things don't enter our consciousness, whether it be a glimmer or a trigger, if there's no resonance, if it's not landing
Absolutely.
somewhere within us. So my
Yeah.
body was like, yeah, let's go figure this out. My mind was like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And
Stop
your
it.
job as a person is to, you know, which are you going to listen to? Is it the brain that's trying to, it's doing its job remarkably to keep you safe? Or are you going to listen to those heartstrings, that
Yeah,
intuition, that inner knowing, right? And that's the juncture
yeah,
that when people come to me, they're like, I can't not do this anymore,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because they have been like, I'm not listening to the brain. I mean, you do need to listen to your brain, but hopefully you know what I mean, right?
And the first, I would say, the hardest part of my journey into entrepreneurship was probably the first full year and a half. I'm not even going to play around
Mm-hmm.
for those of you who are considering it, because with all due respect to those folks out there that are like, make 10K in the first month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like Jen and I were talking about before, the secret sauce and
The word realistic is what comes up to me. It's what are you willing to do and what are you willing to sacrifice to make that happen, right? It's that intentional thought before you take on that mindset of, well, I'm going to make 10K in my first 5 months, right? Or whatever that is, right? It's like pausing for a moment and saying, is that actually what I want, right? Who am I going to have to be to get that? And am I willing to do that? That is such a key.
you're absolutely right. For me, heading into entrepreneurship, I was like, I refuse to alter my
Hmm.
lifestyle in any way. Well,
Yeah.
because of that refusal, that set up
Mm-hmm.
a year of disappointment and expectation because I was so attached to the outcome of I'm going to do this out on my own the same way I did it in corporate.
Yeah.
Y'all, with love and light, that's very, very unrealistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Something I did, and I still have to catch myself doing it when I'm doing it, is that for a good decade, I've had my business on and off for 12 years. But probably the first decade, I'm used to being considered a leader, not quite executive, but not a low level leader either. I don't know what the term for that is. I've been viewed as a leader for most of my career, and I've been doing it for 30 years. I'm an expert in what I do. So I thought, oh, this online space, I should be an expert in that. Well, I wasn't. I was terrible. I don't mean terrible in that way, but my ego wouldn't let me see that. My ego was telling me, you're a leader. People should see you as a leader. You shouldn't have to put in the hard work. You've already done the hard work. No, I hadn't. Not in that context.
1,000,000%. I
Yeah.
did the same thing stepping out. I was like, "Oh, I'm head of
Yeah.
product management. I'm going to
Yeah.
shit out here in this online world," which is not what I've been doing this whole
Yeah.
time. Some of it, yes, I was doing marketing and I do have marketing clients right now, but the coaching part of it, I
Hmm.
went to my page, they're like, show me where you're a coach. I'm like, oh, right. I have to, I have to prove myself in this new world. So
Mhm.
that's where I went down the road of like getting certification and things like that because,
Yep.
okay, let me start the pathway to quote unquote prove.
Prove myself.
Yeah,
Yep.
that,
I'm
that I
guilty
am.
of doing that.
So it gets to be all of it. And now
Yeah.
it's this space where I get so excited each month where I'm flowing, I'm
Hmm.
taking soul aligned action, and I'm okay. I feel good, and I'm earning enough. The word is enough.
Hmm.
Because before I was leaning on that high six-figure
Yep.
salary,
Yep.
and I was
Yep.
like, I'm not changing a thing. Well,
That was really cute of you to think that
that's
at the time.
so sweet, Amy. So cute. I love you.
Poor little naive Amy when you left corporate. And it's not to say that it won't happen for you, but the thing here is you get to decide if you want that to happen for you. So it goes back to what do I want? Who am I willing to be to have that? And am I okay with that? Am I willing? Who do I need to be to have that? what do I need to sacrifice to have that? And is that something I truly, truly want? Or am I just thinking I should want that because of
Right.
societal, cultural, like all of that BS?
Yeah, because there was one time where I was like having good burnout, meaning I had
Mm-hmm.
10 coaching clients. I had like 5 episodes of Women Making Moves. All the numbers were high, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, do I
Whoa.
have any time to do it? Like I was getting burnt out
Mm-hmm.
on stuff that I really enjoyed and felt good and aligned with. So now I'm like, okay, how many
Yeah.
clients do I want to serve each week?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think too, though, it's recognizing there may be times when you're okay with that burnout temporarily
mm,
because you've made the intentional decision that I know this is what it's going to take, but it's really, really important to me. And then your job becomes how do I best manage myself through that, right? What extra support do I need, right? And then there's a time to pause and say, no, I'm kind of in a rest period here, and that is okay. But it's that intentionality and recognizing where you're at, where you want to be, and what you're willing to do to get there.
the rest periods still are hard for me sometimes because
Absolutely.
in corporate, some days I would absolutely phone it in because
Mm-hmm.
I was getting a paycheck regardless.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I would just like I could just screw off for the day or whatever. These days, if I'm not feeling it, I will do intentional rest, but there's still all day long, I have to feel into the energy that says, this is all on you now. You're not getting
Yeah.
paid right now if you're sitting still. I'm like,
That's the 42 years of conditioning that you had. And, I go
mm,
back to why deep self-belief and self-trust is so crucial because in those moments when your brain is offering up, I should be doing this because blah, 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 you can take a step back and say, no, I'm intentionally resting because I understand the importance of it. And I trust that I have my own back. And when I'm restored, refreshed, I'll
mhm.
make it happen.
And I deserve it.
Absolutely.
So one last question as we start to wind down, Jen. One of the things that I was doing in the physical world when my soul was starting to stir, I was very aware that I was masking up and things started to feel like you were talking about early, you can't not like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
pursue it. I was using alcohol to numb
Mm,
anything that was trying to come in.
me too. Me too. Red
Okay.
wine. Yep.
Every night I would, I mean, 2 bottles of wine by myself. I was admittedly either a binge drinker or alcoholic during this time because I did not want to feel any of the things that were trying to come in. Jen,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that there might be a lot of folks out there masking, numbing, ignoring, suppressing, we know how hard it is to do the work
Mm-hmm.
and how worth it is on the other side. How do you help someone? What's the very first step, especially in that place where they're like, I don't want to feel this.
Yeah. Oh, that is such. I have to take a little bit of a breath there because I was in that place. It took me longer than I'd like to get out of that place. And I can fully attest, as can you, that what is on the other side is so worth it. But that doesn't help you get through that messy beginning and middle stages, right? I always go back to that intentionality. And it takes practice to get intentional with yourself, but the payoff is so huge. So, in that moment when you're reaching for the bottle of wine, asking yourself, why am I doing this? Is it because I want the experience of the delicious, multi layered, dry, complex red wine? Or am I doing it because I don't want to feel? Okay, if it's because I want to numb, okay, not going to judge it, right? I'm going to get curious about it. What am I numbing from? Okay, now that I have that, okay, is there anything I can do in this moment, in tomorrow, in the next day to make that a little bit better incrementally? It might be infinitesimally incrementally better, but what is one little thing I can do? And again, not judging it, not saying, oh, that's not enough or that's too easy. Or again, your brain's being a bit of a dick, right? But you get to say, hey, no, we're not going to operate this way. So having that intentionality and curiosity, I feel like that gets you like 90% of the way there. And once you, like I said, it's a habit. You're building a muscle, so you're going to have to think a little bit extra out of the gate, right? To incorporate it. But I gotta tell you, years later, I don't even have to think about it anymore. It's just a part of who I am and what I do. And that goes back to that self-trust and having my own back. I've built that muscle so that when my brain is being a dick, I know how to handle it.
I still have those moments sometimes, but it's interesting for me. It's not that I'm trying to escape something.
Hmm.
And this is something new that I'm starting to pull a thread on. Sometimes there's this very interesting moment when I drink alcohol, it gets me closer to the divine. Like it
Yeah.
helps my brain to hit
Yeah, absolutely.
pause. So that's like interesting, this crossover.
Yeah, and what I want to say there is just to give like my own personal experience. I still absolutely need to numb sometimes. Like I don't feel like that ever goes away, right? But now it's like, okay, I'm feeling the need to check out, right? I'm not going to judge
Yes,
myself for it, but I'm also
yes.
not going to let it go on for days and days and days and days and days and weeks and years, which I had done in the past, right?
Mhm.
It's that self-trust, that having my own back, that I need to check out, allowing myself to do it, and then knowing, trusting that I will get back to it when I've had enough checkout.
You just gave me permission because sometimes I feel guilty when I'm like, I want
Absolutely.
to check out.
Absolutely. We're not robots. We're whole ass human beings.
Mhm.
My nipples are hard. I shared in the recording for my podcast, like when there's like a nugget of, I'm like, my nipples get hard. So TMI, Jen just entered the chat.
Never TMI. I love it.
Yeah.
Jen, where
Yeah.
can we find you?
Oh, yourbestdamnlife.com. I'm all over. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I think Facebook is my preferred social media platform. And I love having conversations with people. Whether you hire me or not, that is not my goal in life. It is to connect with people because we can get so much off of each other and it doesn't always have to be transactional. Actually, I don't usually want it to be transactional. I want to know other human beings that are ready to do this work and are honest with themselves and are like doing the work to make shit happen. Do the damn work. If you're ready, by ready, I mean, I can't not do this any longer. And it's just now, how am I going to make this happen?
Closing remarks as we wrap up, besides hard nipples.
Besides, um, believe in yourself. If you're not believing in yourself, start there, right? Figure out how do I build that muscle to believe in myself, whether it's the support of a therapist, the support of a trusted friend or mentor, hiring a coach like Amy or myself. Start there because I promise you, life will feel so much easier and better and glorious and fulfilled and all of that when you believe in yourself. And that is not toxic positivity, gaslighting BS. Like that is the honest truth.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. This was wonderful. I feel like you and I could talk wax poetic about this for hours.